Hola, good evening, bona tarda. I will say some words in Catalan and then move to English. And the rest of the event will be in English. Però volia donar-vos les gràcies per haver vingut avui aquí. Gràcies perquè era complicat arribar amb les acumulacions de públic que ens porta el futbol a Montjuïc. Estem molt contents d'acollir avui aquests EUmies Awards Talks per escoltar Andrew Freear, director de Rural Studio, que és el guanyador de la Thomas Jefferson Foundation Medal in Architecture del 2023. Aquest esdeveniment succeeix la conferència que ja va fer en Gustav Dusing, que és un dels guanyadors del Premi d'Arquitectura Contemporània Mies van der Rohe, els Premis d'Arquitectura Contemporània de la Unió Europea, els EUmies Awards, que organitzem des de la Fundació, i que el passat 17 de febrer va fer la seva corresponent conferència a la Universitat de Virgínia. O sigui que estem aquí fent aquest encreuament de mestres de l'arquitectura per procurar que el coneixement flueixi també a través de l'Atlàntic. Aquest foment del diàleg transatlàntic només és possible gràcies a la col·laboració de Manel Bailo, que és qui ens va posar en contacte a la Universitat de Virgínia, que és la que dona la Thomas Jefferson Gold Medal, perquè el Thomas Jefferson, a més de president dels Estats Units, també era arquitecte. I vam pensar com podíem col·laborar i creiem que aquesta és una solució estupenda i estem molt contents de poder-ho fer. Per cert, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe va ser el primer receptor de la medalla Thomas Jefferson en arquitectura el 1966, o sigui que tot lligava. Jo crec que jo ho deixaré aquí, només volia donar-vos aquest context i li dono la paraula. I give the word to Manuel Bailo on behalf of UBA. Thank you, Manuel.
Well, thank you very much, Anna. Well, I need to have some slides here, so how I can make it like this? Yes. So first of all, how this idea that we are having today started. So, well, from the University of Virginia, the School of Architecture, in 2016, we started the Barcelona program. And after running some years the program, I thought it was interesting to try to connect better the two continents, right? One of the most important events at the University of Virginia is what is called the Thomas Jefferson Award. Probably you know what's that, but if you check, you will see how important is this award, right? This award, as Anna said, started in 1966, and the first medalist was Thomas Jefferson. Talking with Anna and with Ivan and with our dean, Malo Houston, we thought it could be interesting to start making this interchange between the two awards, between the medalist from the Thomas Jefferson Awards and the Mies van der Rohe Awards. So the idea was to try to create this interchange. Thomas Jefferson was an architect. There's this Joel, the lawn of the university. It's a really, really, really special place. So we thought it was nice to have the Mies van der Rohe Award coming to Charlottesville, to the UVA, doing a lecture, and then having here the medalist in the pavilion, while we have our students here also in Barcelona. Mies arrived to the lawn, and so the proportions are great. So we thought it was nice to create this kind of interchange between Mies and Jefferson, right? So as what Anna was saying, so we had the first lecture in Charlottesville with Gustav Dusing. Well, Mies was inviting Jefferson at this case. So we had Gustav Dusing in Charlottesville 2 weeks ago, presenting his work. It was really interesting. All the school and the faculty were really excited with the presentation. And now we are here, so inviting to, in this case, to Andrew Freear to do his talk, and also inviting to Mies to come to here, right? So yes, today we have here Andrew Freear. He received the medal, the Thomas Jefferson Medal 2023 here in Barcelona. And yesterday it was announced the new medalist, and the new medalist is Walter Hood, right? And this nice coincidence, no? So he was here working 2 years ago too. So next November we are going to have the new medalist here making his talk. Okay. So let me introduce Andrew Freear. So Andrew, thanks for coming, and please, your time.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute honor to be here. Thank you to Anna and Manuel, and also to Ivan. He took us out and got us really drunk at lunchtime, so that was great. And of course, obviously, to the Thomas Jefferson Foundation and the University of Virginia, and it goes without saying, the Mies Foundation, and I think, you know, I applaud you in this current world trying to think intercontinentally and getting folks together to talk to each other. Who knows, this might be the last one if I make a screw up of it tonight. So, and also to Anansu, okay. She'll have the difficult problem of trying to make sense of this bullshit that I'm going to show to you today, and try to make sense of it all. So I'm looking forward to that. Although I think I'm going to talk so long, she'll only have 2 seconds. Isn't that right? So that's what she said to me. So I really am truly honored to be here. When we received the Jefferson Award, I personally was really intimidated to be there, given the roll call of names. You know, Mies van der Rohe, the first one, and Royal Studio and Andrew Freear. It sounds ridiculous. Mies would be going, who the hell is that, right? So that gives me goosebumps, but and now to be here at the Barcelona Pavilion, when I think back and, you know, those miserable days as a student working really hard, I would never have believed that I would be doing work that would then be talked about in the Mies van der Rohe Pavilion. So I thank you so much. It's really humbling. You know, we should sing happy birthday to Mies. It's next a week, 2 weeks on Wednesday is his 139th birthday. So this dude from Alabama's here going, yeah, happy birthday, Mies. If you all don't laugh at my jokes, this is going to be a really long evening, right? Okay. So I come here as a feeling a little bit of an interloper, quite honestly, because I you know, to be in that list of names is really both overwhelming and extraordinary. But I also hope that I'm also very happy to sort of use the award to give a kind of a general shout out, if you like, for the rural and raise issues of the rural-urban balance, which I think is an issue across the world and across societies. And frankly, also that good design should be available to anyone, everywhere, and that it shouldn't matter about their income or their wealth level or the color of their skin. I mean, I think we try to promote that issue and that idea, and along with why isn't, you know, good housing a human right? It's one of the beautiful things about coming to a place like Barcelona, finding the care and the delight and joy in having public spaces, cared for public spaces, and interest and care and how important housing is. And that I hope all you American students are seeing that and going, wow, that's an idea. Why not, you know, support good public spaces? So I'll probably rant about that quite a lot tonight. A couple of things that I should say just to kind of, you know, set the frame for this work. The Royal Studio's 31 years old this year. I've been there at 25 years. I'm both an insider and an outsider. Of course, I've got my sexy English accent, which sets me apart from black folks and from white folks there. But I'm trying to and kind of at least comment on some of the complexity of the place and the condition. Show you a little bit of the process. Some things you should know about this work is that it's all paid for by what we call soft money, so grants and fundraising. My position is paid by the state, by the university, but all the buildings that we built, we have to find money, or we work with local communities to raise the money, or students are very good at getting donations. And all of the students are between the ages of 18 and 23 years old, and we work in teams. And you know, some of the bigger community projects are done in teams of 4, so it's a lot of work. But the staff and the faculty are also part of that team, because we did a fire station, I've never done a fire station before. So it's a great leveler amongst the staff and the faculty and the students, because we can be on the planet a little bit more, but we can't really claim to know anything more than them, and everybody has a voice. But it's also a way to interact with a community that everyone has a goal. Let's do a fire station, and we're going to do it together. And that's also in the team process of working with architects and engineers and landscape architects, all the plethora of consultants. We're all equal voices. In fact, we pull all of our consultants in at the very beginning of the year to give their view on the project. So I'm not getting the engineer or the landscape architect to fix the problem at the end of the project. They're right in it at the beginning. So I hope there's a kind of an equity of voice in what we do. It can be very painful, but it's like, you know, that's the rigor of that, and the kind of iterative nature is hugely important for us. So I think we've become a town architect. Frankly, I think that's probably a term you could say for the county, if you like. We've been a neighbour for 31 years. I think they trust us. We've been there long enough. I live there. We're not a program that flies into a place and does something and then leaves, because there's no reference as to whether or not we did any good. Here, I might, you know, I don't hear anything if we do a good job, but if we screw up, I hear, okay? You all got to laugh, come on. I think we do all of the work out of necessity. We're asked to do it. We do have the luxury of being an institution that we can say, no, we don't think that's a good idea. How about trying to do this? So as a not-for-profit, we're not chasing ambulances and chasing the money. We can say this is important to do this, but you should maybe try it here or in this manner, just to give our advice. We do live there. You know, it's this kind of, I think for us as architects and as students, is a question of doing what we should do rather than what we can do. At architecture school, it's too often can do, and I think we ask the question what we should do. We take responsibility for all the projects that we do. I could actually start another Royal Studio fixing the previous projects right now, because there's 30 years of work is a lot of work. The other thing to tell you is that locally there's no money to police the building permit process. So the building permit process can be a kind of, we actually build to the International Building Code, we build to the Southern California Building Code, we build to the Residential Building Code, but we do that voluntarily, and we do a set of drawings that all of our consultants understand and can kind of sign off on. But nobody signs any drawings. We're not acting as architects. We're simply doing something that nobody else is doing. So that's important to tell that. We don't see that as a luxury. It's actually kind of a responsibility that you're building to the highest level. From a thermal envelope, we're actually building at a way higher level than even the state of Alabama requires. I hope what I show today offers a kind of a positive a critique of how we teach and even procure and make architecture. Again, all of these projects, some of which are remarkably mature, they're designed and they are built by 21 to 23-year-olds. They're not building my design. This is their designs, and it takes a lot of talking to and working through, and you talk about how you're going to build it as you design it. So that's a key part of it, which gives it its rigor. I also hope that through the way I speak about it, that you'll witness a kind of pure, unadulterated joy in the kind of design and make process. It's really invigorating, and to have hands-on and to kind of be able in a few years to be able to decide that you're going to do it that way and really enable yourself to do it that way, but also understand how difficult it is to do it. So our students can talk to a contractor after they've left our program. They have experience of putting things together and how difficult that is. So as I said, please laugh at my jokes. I would like to acknowledge Mary Margaret Jones in the front. She's my partner and a fantastic landscape architect who actually should be stood here giving the talk, because she's way more interesting than me, I'll tell you that. I'd also like to acknowledge the role in a lot of this work. For 10 years, we worked with Xavier Vendrell. I don't know if any of the architects in the audience know Xavier. He was a member of our faculty for a number of years and has highly influenced all of this. So I'll shut up and get into the slides so you can see the good stuff. So this is downtown Newbern. If you drive too quickly, you miss it. I can tell he's got a lead foot because it's like, yeah. We are in the good old disunited States of America. But we live in the deep south, off the Gulf of Mexico. That may be the end of this if I call it the Gulf of Mexico. Suddenly my microphone's not working anymore. Bottom end of the Appalachian Mountain Trail. It's important because the Appalachian Mountains, at the tail end of it is this beautiful black dirt, because there was an inland lake here in the prehistoric days, led to an area, the Black Belt. And the Black Belt's not named for the fact that there's a lot of black folks there. It's actually after that beautiful black soil. So we work in the civil rights town of 157 people over here, and the University of Auburn's over here. So we're about 3 hours away from the university. So if we make a mess, they call us up and say we're coming. We're like scrambling around in 3 hours trying to tidy the mess up. So that's important. If you want to do a design-build program, don't get caught by the grown-ups. But we live with this every day. This last weekend was the 60th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery March for voters' rights. I was actually there on Friday with a number of the folks who, as 13-year-olds and 7-year-olds, were actually in that march. And it was really hard. And they were saying, we were in that march so our parents could get to vote. Holy shit. Huh? What a reason to do it. Just a quick call out for the rural. Everyone says that the rural condition is dying, but if you look, certainly the United States of America for the last 130 years, the population has actually remained pretty constant, about 60 million. So they say the rural's dying, but look at the urban has quadrupled and tripled. It's not dying. It's just been outnumbered by the folks living in an urban condition. This is a map that shows the extraordinary poverty rates of the population. This is 10 years old. It's probably worse than this. But we work in an area that we would call an extraction landscape. It's very much a colonial attitude to the rural. So through the Mississippi, the Black Belt, through the Appalachians, that is a landscape where minerals have been taken away, where the forests have been taken away, where assets have been taken away, and nothing has been given back. So I was talking about the Black Belt, incredible poverty. The only upside, of course, to it all is that through here is where you get, certainly in our region that's predominantly black, we've got a democratic group of voters through there. That's, it's an odd thing to connect the voting population to a geology of the place and the land of the place, but I think that's pretty true. But These poverty rates are extraordinary for the United States of America. I mean, and then what gets worse is the county, the county next to me in the state of Alabama, we're in a place called Hale County. The next county over, where Coretta Scott King was born, that county has 80% of its youth living in the poverty. And it's just, it's unfathomable that when, you see folks coming to Selma making their speeches at Selma, but it's not changed. It's just, it's shameful, honestly, but it is what it is. So, and then there are other issues, I don't know if you can see this, but you probably can't, so I'm going to tell you what it says. But this is, rural internet in the United States. Most of it is satellite-based. Not Elon's, but sure it'll get better with Elon. But it and proudly states here. Am I all right with this microphone, or is it screwing up?
Yeah, don't turn so much toward this.
I can't turn. Okay. Okay. All right. This is going to be a really interesting night. Okay. Oh shoot. All right. Should I have it on the end of a pole? It's like hanging there, It proudly states that my wireless, satellite internet is 1,140% slower than the national average. Yippee! I'm going to pay for that, aren't I? I mean, the problem is not exactly that, but how can you have a connected citizenry and a democracy in the contemporary world if you're not going to give folks decent internet? They can't get access to medical or banking when they need to. So it's, and I hate to say it's deliberate, but there's something of that there. And historically, in a place like Alabama, those coincidences are quite remarkable, honestly. So this is what Rural Studio looks like, a bunch of undergraduate students all desperate to build stuff. We only let the women use the big toys, just so you know. Women are by far the best design builders in the world. This is downtown New Bern. This is Fragile School of Architecture. Design studio. You got to love to be a designer and an architect if you're going to work in that. Classic, environmental studies, right? What do you do in winter? Put your clothes on. What do you do in summer? You take your clothes off. Come on. But we work in the center of town. What we did when we took the building over was we started making events not only for our students, but for the local kids to come and get involved with. Whoops. This is downtown New Bern with Toy Story marching across to an annual celebration that we have, which is our Halloween reviews. And so everybody gets dressed up. All the grown-ups, all the visitors, you've got to come, unless, if you don't have an outfit on, you get stripped naked and told to run down Main Street. That's a joke, okay? But then we sit and then we have a real conversation about serious architecture, right? So this is 3 toilets talking about a small house. This is somebody that I don't know. It's a wonder I didn't get struck by lightning with this one. But so the point is we take the work really seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And I think there's a problem in the architectural world with a little bit of that. But you got to laugh at yourselves. We have amazing consultants. This guy, he's a Texan, comes in from London occasionally. He helps our students build proportional modeling, and then he gets them to put a lever arm on top of it and walk along the lever arm, so they're loading it up, and then they start to look at where it's collapsing. Because at school, we don't teach structures very well. We teach other folks formulas, but this is sort of, where is this going to fail if I'm looking at this intuitively? We get rock stars. There's Xavier, actually. There's Xavier, Glenn Merker. 2 rock stars right next to each other. And then this is the rest of downtown, the post office. She liked to call herself the second Beyonce. And this is the Mercantile, which has recently just closed, but this guy was in charge of the Mercantile for 39 years and 10 months. So really important and kind of heart of our community. We're in Tornado Alley. One of the main sources of income is beef herds, but also they discovered that if you dig a hole in the ground locally, you can fill it full of water. And underneath that beautiful black soil is actually red clay. And it doesn't drain very well. It doesn't drain at all, actually. So you can dig a hole and make a catfish pond. So the farmers are really trying to diversify across many different things. But again, it's mainly kind of extraction, a lot of tree farms as well. The historic houses of the time are still there today, you know, built 150 years ago under slavery. But we try to learn about the good things about these things, which is, you know, what do you see that's great architecture? Tall ceilings, porches, good cross ventilation, narrow plans, staircases as ventilation strategies. I mean, they didn't expect that their living space was going to be 68 degrees every day and that they could wear a swimsuit every day, you know? So we learn from that. We learn from the local vernacular, farming vernacular. This is actually at a plantation house. This is one of the buildings, and you can see the kind of evidence of African carpentry in here. It's a beautiful center entrance. I mean, I would love to, this is a beautiful piece of architecture, you know. I think Mies would have been proud of this one. Big overhang, lift it off the ground, been here 150 years, all built out of wood. So we serve about a 25-mile radius in Hale County. We've worked across 4 counties. The first house we ever did is probably the best one we ever did. This was very much the hand of Samuel Mockbee, my predecessor. Built of straw bales, the great southern porch, because, I mean, porches are just so much. Go to Venice Biennale this year and look at what the United States tries to, or will try, I hope, to say about porches. And then this was the little smokehouse, because he used to fish in the local river. At the beginning, we built quite a lot of quite idiosyncratic homes that were built for individual families. This one actually tested 9,000 carpet tiles. These were carpet tiles that were given to us by Interface. They had been stored in a factory. They had never been used in a building, and they were supposed to have off-gassed. So we built this house, the main house, and then, of course, this piece looks like it's been hit by a tornado. What can you do? Architecture students want to build wacky shit, you know? There's a tornado shelter in the basement, and then so here's Lucy. And you know, in some respects, I always want to apologize for this, but this was from 2001, the year my predecessor died. But these carpet tiles are really beautiful, and they're stacked, but it has incredible insulation, thermally and acoustic capacities. But it gave this family, they were previously in 2 rooms. So AJ's life changed completely. And if you go see Lucy, she's the proudest person on the planet. She's like, I'm the only person in the world that's got a house built of carpet tiles. And so I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Anyway, so then we started to say, you know, what kind of materials should we be building with? This was a house for Rosalie Turner, courtyard house, expandable courtyard house. We built the front section that we call the machine, and then we built this wing and started to build the courtyard when the Sons moved in. This is all built, this was all scavenged timber, and then this is all beautifully lined with cedar that we took down. We took some trees down and milled them all. So here's Rosalie looking like the queen of the street, you know. But again, quite idiosyncratic in a way, but certainly starting to say, well, what's the material that we're going to use here is timber. These are early, smaller public projects. This is a little small chapel community center that was built of rammed earth with glass windshields on top of it. They're actually from Chevrolet Caprice automobiles, and they have a hole already drilled into them, so you can screw it to a frame. And so there they are. And I think it was at the time where everybody at School of Architecture wanted to do fish skins, because, you know, Frank Gehry had done it, so we're like, let's do some fish skins, you know. And it was a really sensationally beautiful place, but it was not lockable. And so you come back today and the kids have graffitied on it, and And then visitors come to see the rural studio and they're looking at this and they're going, well, what happened? And the problem is that it's not our problem, but it just makes that community look bad. So a single move of making sure that this could be locked up, it's sort of be careful. And so we've learned a lot of lessons from these previous projects. These guys built a beautiful tire chapel out of 900 tires that were covered in pink concrete, literally stacked one on top of each other next to this ravine, scavenged roof, and then this amazing view out onto the ravine with the pulpit hanging out there. So this is a view from the pulpit looking back. Extraordinary building. I mean, I think it was at the end of the 2000s, sorry, at the end of the 90s, it was named as one of the most significant buildings in the United States. The sad thing was at the time we built it for a private client. It was going to be a private family chapel. Hands have changed, and so nobody can go and see it. So it's a real shame, but again, you live and learn from that. So when I went to Rural Studio, the late 90s, last century, the folks were still living on dirt floors. This is actually Lucy's mum, Alberta Bryant, and she actually got the hay bale house that you saw at the beginning. But she's outside her daughter's house. Today, what has transformed in our landscape are the trailer homes, which are kind of brilliant. You go and buy them at an automobile place. The problem is that you buy them in the same way you buy an automobile. It's got high interest rate charges on it, but you can get it tomorrow. The other problems are its dimension to go down the street, not to make me feel comfortable, and its ceiling is about 7'6". So they're tin cans. They're built awfully. People will buy them, live in them, pay for them 30 years, and by the time they've paid off the note on it, it's fallen into the ground, the garbage. So we started to say, could we compete with that? What was the number that and this was in 2003, we'd been building a lot of houses that were quite idiosyncratic and client-based, and we said, well, what if we said, what kind of house could we build for anyone and everybody? And what would that cost? And we did this kind of initial calculation that we could look at perhaps $100 a month in mortgage or rent. And what would that look like in terms of a mortgage? It will look like $20,000 mortgage over a 30-year period. And could we split it between labor and materials? And back in 2023, we started to be able to do that. And these are kind of, you get the building built in the community. The trailers are built in North Carolina. The money goes to North Carolina. How could you build at home? So since 2003, I thought we'd solve the problem in a couple of years. We've kept rolling, and this whole thing has kind of blown up as to what's appropriate. A couple of the models that we really liked is this one, and all of the houses that we built for our neighbors are all named after them. So this is Dave, standing on Dave's porch. It was never intended to be a shotgun house, but in the United States, you call a shotgun house a house that you can shoot a gun all the way through the front door and then it goes out the back door, right? And it's just, you enter the living room, bathroom, sort of kitchen area, and then a bed. And so here was the challenge to students take this challenge on that I thought they'd get really bored with, but today it's just blown up. And we gave them 5 windows, 2 doors and 5 windows. We said it's important to have a high ceiling, good cross ventilation, and most importantly, a porch, right? So you see all of these houses have that characteristic to them. This is a different way of looking at the center entrance, sleep on one side, live on the other side. This is Mac, that's Mac's house. And then Joanne's house was a premise that if you look at the perimeter linear footage of the wall, in a square house or a round house versus the linear house, you actually get more square footage from a circular shape or a square shape. So we did Joanne's as a square shape, living area, sleeping area. There's the view looking out through the front door. See, at architecture school, you talk about bouncing the light off the crappy American refrigerator into the space, do you? You don't talk about that at Harvard. You maybe do at UVA. But I mean, it's like, that fucker is ugly. So you don't want to put it here. You've got to put it somewhere where it can be useful. So, and there's actually Joanne sitting on the front porch. So, and interestingly, we've evolved some of these models even just by interacting with our local community. This plan, Joanne's plan, just changed significantly by one little move, moving the back door into the back bedroom and then making a sleeping nook. And so Ophelia sees her house as being a 2-bedroom house. It also enables somebody else to live in the house and enter the bedroom. So you do little baby steps like that that can change people's quality of life. This is an example also of what we have found by living there for 30 years. This is a house that was started in 1961. This is what it looked like in 2012, and they just kept adding a room on. And you're like, okay, I get that. You got some money, add another room. Got some more money, add another room. The problem is that every one of these had a different foundation, and every time you build on, you've got to build a lower roof. So it's like you get in the front door and you can't, right? And of course, with a different foundation, they'll start to do that. And guess where it fails? It fails at the roof line. So we tried to kind of think about how we could allow people adaptability and offer opportunity in their homes that were homes, because in a rural area, we do not buy a home to sell it on to make money. This is about creating a 100-year home. This is for a family, a multi-generational family. So these homes they've got to deal with a mum with 3 kids on her own, a family with a mum and a dad with 2 kids, a granny, you name it. So how can you make this adaptable? Because it's an investment for the family pretty much forever. So we said, could we do some expansion under a shed, or could we expand internally? So this is a kind of generational idea for the home. One of these was a house called for Reggie. So what we did with this house was we built a big shed, and then we built the volumes underneath it. And we left him space to say, okay, you need to build in the future, you can add on. So Reggie, who's here, could actually extrude here and extrude the other side, and we planned a 5-bedroom house for him that he could do in an ad hoc way, protected by a big roof. So the infrastructure is the important thing, and then him building underneath it, he can do at any time. So here's Reggie. And he was also somebody that just loved living outdoors. This piece here is actually what we call the bonus room. This is plumbed, and it has electric in it, and it can be converted. So he's actually only living in that little piece over there. But this was set up for him. So you had electric and plumbing at 2 corners of it. So you could build an extra bedroom or another kitchen out here if you brought the thing forward. And we actually incorporated the old fireplace because we helped him demolish his old house, and the fireplace remained as a kind of barbecue pit because he loves working outside. So there's Reggie. This is for Frankie and Rosie, similar idea, except this time in this one, we didn't touch the structure. We deliberately kept away from the structure so you knew that was precious and important. In this one, the lateral stability was provided by the volume underneath it. So the columns are in the back wall of the building. But it was essentially the same process, and these guys can actually add on in the porch space if they want to down the road. There you see the inside of that. I love this. They're watching the Lone Ranger. Yeah. So there's their yard, and there's their old house. And the difficulty here was no room for septic tanks, which is another issue. But there was really nowhere else to build on this property. It wasn't the ideal orientation, but we wanted to make a space in front of their houses. The other idea is to build a bigger house, maybe a 2-story house that you can change internally. So this was a house for Patrice. You see there's a front entrance and a side entrance. So this is the kind of entry space that you come here into with the kitchen, staircase up to a 2nd floor. So really this is what we call an up and over house. The back entrance can be the 2 rooms at the back, 3 rooms at the back can be used as a granny flat, or they could be used to rent it out, or the whole house could be for a 5-person family. So there's a single door that connects the unit on the ground to the rest of this, right? So again, it's an opportunity for a family down the road. And the family, actually, this is Patrice. Here's Patrice, and she's a hairdresser. She's got a couple of lovely kids, and she's already starting a hairdressing business in the room at the back. So, This one's kind of interesting. This is very recent, hot off the press, only for Barcelona. Yeah. 18 by 18, 2 parking lot space. Because we had developers who were working with us with the Front Porch Initiative who've come back and said the local municipalities have said if you can build a house on 2 parking spots, we won't require you to offer the 2 parking spaces. So you can you can put housing in on what would originally be seen as parking spaces. So we went on the challenge of the 18 by 18. This is what we just completed. Live on the ground, sleep on the ground, live on the 2nd floor. Here's our amazing client. Detairik, yeah, shit, Detairik. But here's his, so it's very, very tight, trying to pinch every inch. You go up the staircase, and then this is the 2.5 stories. So there's a kind of a 2nd bed up there. The idea was to give this guy an opportunity, if he got married, had a kid, to not immediately have to go and find somewhere else to live. So there's an optional space. There you see that space, there's a kitchenette. And there's Detairik. He's a young guy that we sponsored because he really wanted to stay on his family property. The whole story that I shan't get into. So the result of all of this, remarkably enough, is that in 2017, 2018, Fannie Mae, who runs the United States mortgage industry and overlooks $3 trillion of money, came to the Rural Studio in the middle of nowhere and said, we have rural mortgages, but we have no product for the rural mortgage, no housing product. We thought it was a joke. And they showed up in New Bern, and their 3 top guys were there. They each earned $3 million. And they had a security guy who would come into everything before they entered. It was absolutely insane. And you're like, you're coming to Rural Studio, a podunk undergraduate program in the middle of nowhere for help? So anyway, so this was, instead of just working with low-income clients, this has really allowed us to take the prototypes and the house models out into the rest of the United States. So we've started to evolve a communication package that's even involved things like modeling a communication package after the IKEA, can you build it yourself? So these are documents that we've made. We have a very clear and we're working with not-for-profits across the Southeast to build these homes. So these are different versions in different places of Joanne's home. These are 2 houses that we started to test against each other, performance-wise, sort of thermal envelope. So we're doing the modeling of the home, we're doing the kind of thermal testing of the home, we're verifying that by building it, and then we're monitoring it. And what we've started to do is convince not-for-profit builders and not-for-profit organizations that we want them to invest up front in the building and make a more durable, higher insulated building so that they're not spending that money in the future. So they can spend that, they know how much it's going to cost to run it, so you can spend that money up front. So here you see what we've got going now is that we've got this Front Porch Initiative that's working at a national and regional level, giving us feedback on the models. So we test them in New Bern, and then these organizations take them out and they build them. And so we've got, I think it's something, yeah. So these are, taking it into an urban area like Nashville. This one's actually in Marietta, Florida. So we're also, so we're doing work anywhere from down in New Orleans up to Memphis and Tennessee. So it's like, whoa, my goodness, I can't believe that this is happening. But so we've got 6 people that are working on that and working with something like 18 organizations across 11 states, building the houses that were developed in New Bern, Alabama. So, meanwhile, in New Bern, this is the new town hall. This is what we call PPE, which is protective equipment that you have to wear when you're building a building. Not. It's a joke, right? Just so you know that. Although knee pads are important, yeah, right. So these are the guys, 2 guys and 2 gals that work with this group to build New Bern, a new fire department. This was the first public building in Newbern for 110 years. And we wanted it to be a celebration. I became involved in the fire department. They could get money for a fire truck, but they needed to have a warm place for the fire truck to be, because these trucks carry water to the fire. And if the truck's frozen, you're not going to do anything with the truck when you get to the fire, right? So we built this. This was literally, these guys did virtually everything on this apart from the metal standing seam roof. Concrete, trusses, you name it. And they helped the community raise over $100,000 to build it as well. Next building we did, which was the firehouse, was 2004. This was 2010. The fire department had expanded. They needed a place to have lectures. We built the town hall. Also, because in a place like Newbern, Alabama, democracy has to come and be visible. In the past, it's been below the surface and not understandable. And so to make a building where you can have conversations together, where you can understand where the municipality is. So we built it out of 8-inch by 8-inch cypress logs. They're compacted from the roof down. They're just stacked on top of each other. It's like a log cabin. This was the biggest structure. In all of our projects, we do a big structural test of the project before we actually build it. And then this was the first meeting to demonstrate about the reduced hours at the Newbern Post Office, because they reduced the time from 8 hours a day to 4 inconvenient hours a day. So you can see the main public space, how the detailing was. It was predicted that the wall over its 9 feet would shrink by 3 inches, so it could shrink that much. So how do you deal with windows and openings? Well, you put the window on the outside so that if it shrinks, there's a slip connection. And the doors are the same. So the beauty of doing that is that suddenly you see the building's made of a solid piece of wood. If the window had been in here, I wouldn't have understood that. So this is the council chamber. This is in downtown. You see the red barn, our studio. And then Lee's ladies came to me. She bugged me for about 5 years to do a library. They had an old bank which had been closed since the 1930s. We finally kind of agreed that we should do it, mainly to get broadband internet into the town, so we converted it to this. It's a big reading space. Again, team of 2 gals and 2 guys. Took about 2.5 years from design to completion. They took down the old bank vault because the bank vault was made of brick. In the foundations, there were a lot of water, and the bricks were sucking the water into the space. And in a library, you can't have humidity. So we took the bank vault out, put the door at the front, and then built the courtyard out of all the bricks that we took down. So this has changed significantly now. It's just really the heart of our community. This is the garden nook, and then there's the courtyard with the walls. So big deal for Newbern, Alabama. It's really, this lady, 2 weeks before he was assassinated, Teresa hid Dr. King from the Ku Klux Klan in her home. This was her home. In the mid-90s, she decided to set up an organization to celebrate that night, but also celebrate the foot soldiers of the national movement, because many folks in places like this were arrested, they were imprisoned, and they were demonstrating locally, and nobody really knew about it. So she bought this building. No, she was given this building. So we transferred it from that to this. This is a community room. This is the little museum, and we connected them together. Her charge was to connect them together, because she was aware of the fact that the foot soldiers were dying out, so you needed to have a self-orienting, what do you call it, with didactic panels that can allow you to go through the museum on your own. So that's what it looked like at the back. We took these things off, extruded. So this is a gallery for art exhibits that can change in and out, and this is the kind of universal entranceway for everybody. And this is a fritted glass that stops the sun coming in, and that's the march to Selma, because many of our folks were in that march from Selma to Montgomery. So the inside of that, we discovered these walls. we were like, these are beautiful. Do you want us to cover these up or not? Because we didn't want to be patronizing to them. And they're like, no, they're beautiful. Keep them uncovered. So, and this is the way into the exhibit about the night. And then there's that exhibit space. So they had different sections, the new to the old. Here's Teresa with foot soldiers that were involved in the movement. There's 3 students that designed and built this. We started learning about how to do multi-year projects. This was a park for Perry County. Did 4 pieces here. A pavilion, which is this one. Just essentially a roof that was reflects some. I mean, it was lifting the roof off the ground and being very aware of trying how to bounce light into the space on the underside. The community liked it so much that they had previously said they wanted prefabricated restrooms. And then the mayor said to us, no, you take the money, we want you to build some amazing restrooms. So these guys built this, which is a walkway to the pavilion, and then they built these 3 toilets that I say are the most remarkable pooping experiences in the United States. So this one over here is the tall toilet, the long toilet, and the mound toilet. So here's the one, you know, Mies van der Rohe could sit there looking up into the trees. And then this one, he could sit there and he could talk to a tree. I wonder if he ever talked to a tree. And then in this one is the best one, because, he could sit there on the toilet and shoot at the deer as they're running across. So he'd really like that one, wouldn't he? Yeah, with his cigar, right? And then the community wanted us to build a birding tower, but we realized that we had to get across a kind of a small rivulet to get to there. So we built this Toblerone tush that the walking surface hangs on. So essentially, it's the load's coming here. The counterweight is here, counterweight here, support here, and then the centerpiece just sits on those cantilevers. We literally built the engineer's sketch. So these are kind of things that we get up to. They were built in the parking lot up the road. We put a wheel axle on them and a towing hitch, and we literally ran them down the road, and that's me. I had a nice bottom then. And holding it, you know, stopping it, bouncing up and down, going down the road. So then we got a crane donated for the weekend, and they lifted it into place. So there is the 2 sides, and then there's the last piece going in, and we're like, I can't believe this is this going to fit? And it fit. So you put the structure up in the air, you wrap and protect the structure, it's out of the moisture and humidity, and it's a beautiful piece. It does have a handrail, just so you know. And then the challenge was the community. It was a really big birding region, and they wanted to take. It's a very poor community. They wanted to get the birders. It's a migratory route, so they wanted the birders to come and look at the migratory birds. So they wanted a 100-foot birding tower, and we tried it in wood and did something like that, and it was like, this isn't going to work. So somebody showed up and said, why don't you get one of those fire towers that they used to watch for fires? So literally, within a week, these guys had got one of those fire towers donated for $55, actually, yeah. So like €5. So I'm in an oh shit moment as a teacher, like, what are we going to do with this? And so I said, well, why don't you go and see if you can get yourselves trained as certified fire erectors and deconstructors? And they did, and they got trained on the tower, and they took it down, and they rebuilt it, and they put it into the ground with helical anchors because they could do it. It's the safest project we've ever done because only 4 people could work on it, and it's a remarkable thing. No concrete anywhere. Everything's on helical anchors that drill into the ground, 25 feet down into the ground. And this is the views from the top with this beautiful walkway that they did going across the ecotone. And then that's the view from the top, you know, with special T-shirts as well. You know. But, yeah. How am I doing?
It's been 15 minutes.
What?
You've been 45 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Maybe also wrap it up. So you can
All right. Well, yeah, okay. I will. I'll wrap it up. All right. This was a park, 40-acre park, that was in disrepair. 10 years, we did 10 phases of this project, from landscape, ballparks, ball fields, toilets catching the water off the roof, field lighting, concession stand that opens and closes like a mouth, a skate park, playground made of 3,500 barrels, scout hut, exercise stations, and then shade structures. Boys and Girls Club, biggest building we've ever done. These guys raised 170,000 in materials donations on this project. Some multi-unit housing, can you believe? Don't go so fast. Well, he's telling me to stop. And then this is a beautiful new courtyard we made for this Horseshoe Farm organization. This was a $170,000 welding package that our students went and worked with a contractor to build all of this, so all prefabricated. They did that. They did that during the pandemic. And then this is stuff that we've started to get into testing on ourselves, because at the moment in the world, builders and manufacturers and multinational manufacturers are really trying to tell you that you have to cover your buildings in lots of layers. And we don't know what they're doing. We're guilted into doing it. And so we said, what happens if you just build it out of a single material and you rethink wood and you don't come to the table with preconceptions about it? So this is actually a ventilation system that actually acknowledges that a building would leak. Because the other thing that stupid architects try to do is make really tight buildings. And then when the mechanical systems fail, the thing rots from the inside. So it's a road to nowhere. So we said, could we embrace the idea that a building would leak? Could we be careful about the size of the holes in the wall so that any air going out was actually, any air being lost through, any hot air being lost through the wall would be captured by cool air going back in. So you have to think about the tributary area of those holes. Anyway, we did all of these really grown-up tests, scientific tests of it, understanding the kind of chimney effect of this, built a small structure, and we started testing that one. So these are the final pieces. You're completely surrounded by wood, how you put it together. So these are living accommodation. And then this last one is taking an idea of internal thermal mass. What if you understand what the thermal mass on the inside of a building can do to change and moderate the temperature? So we put, and you have a chimney at the top, chimney at the bottom, because hot air rises, cold air falls. If you start to manage that, what can you do with that? It's just, what are they called? Termites do this. They have an internal thermal mass that tempers their climate. So we got involved with McGill University, had amazing scientists on here. We decided to test wood versus concrete, and we were able to prove that these two structures were very, very close to each other in terms of inside. One of them, you wrapped it with concrete on the four sides, and in the other, you wrapped it with plywood. And this has a little bit more surface, but it acted exactly the same way as the other one if you manage the movement of air through it as well. So it's air movement and thickness of the material. And the concrete was 3/4 of an inch, and the wood was 3/4 of an inch. So we're trying to kind of, instead of being beholden to these multinational, industrial organizations that tell us we should do this, can we bring knowledge to the table? And then the last thing is food. Locally, we couldn't understand why folks did not, why they were not growing locally. So in our area, we've lost these kind of ma and pa local grocery stores. We're driving 10 miles to Piggly Wiggly to buy this kind of shit, which is really bad for you. We're also, it's transformed the way our towns look by the delivery of the food. There's McDonald's everywhere, right? And you eat this thing, this is a 3-year-old McDonald's Happy Meal. It doesn't look any different from the day you bought it. You bite it and it tastes the same. So don't eat this shit, right? So we established our own farm, and now every student at the Royal Studio works in the farm. We're producing 8,000 pounds of vegetables. We eat together, we cook together, and that's changed the game for us. Locally, we help the local community with a farmer's market. I won't bother showing the video. It's an amazing video. But I'm not allowed. He's told me to stop. So, no, I'm good. I'll go on then. You can if you want. I mean, it's just an incredible video. Look at this for technology. Fucking hell. Watch that. So the point was that they can move. What an idea. So this has actually moved 4 or 5 times, but that was the point, you know, to really make sure you could have a farmer's market and it could go anywhere. So anyway, food's important. Don't eat this shit, eat that shit. And you're all welcome to come to Royal Studio and party with us and, you know, talk about the world. So I'll shut up. Sorry.
Thank you, Andrew. Gracias. We have invited Nacho Zabal Beascoa, the amazing architecture writer, mostly in El País, but in many other places. It's always a pleasure to read her, and we are very, very happy and looking forward to listen to your conversation.
But she's only got a minute and a half now.
Well, hola a todos. Good evening, everyone. I'll try to be fast as possible. These days, when I looked at your presentation and when I prepared for this interview, the first thing that I thought was when I first started writing in the newspapers about architecture, every time I had to interview an architect, they would say things to me like, for example, no, this building was supposed to be like that, but then, of course, we needed to build a ramp, and then it ruined it. Then we needed to, stuff like that, right? And at the end, they kept saying, well, basically, architecture is only 2% of the things that you see in cities and in rural areas and in the world. And I would say, what about everything else? And most of them would say everything else is construction. Mm. So there was construction and architecture. And architecture was supposed to be 2%. And I kept thinking, so why don't you make all the construction architecture, which is basically what you do in Rural Studio, no, basically. And I thought that was something to do with the past, because I'm 58 years old, so perhaps it had gone. But then you see movies these days, like The Brutalists, for example, perpetuating the idea that was in Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. I don't know if you read it. The idea of an architect as a hero, as an artist, as someone who has to fight in order to build something not for the community, not to save a city or a village, but to do something heroic. Means to do something that he is interested, or she, but mainly he, is interested in building for art's sake, basically, no? So we haven't changed that much. No. So the first idea would be, why did you have this idea, and how did you convince a university that this was the way to teach architecture?
Well, I didn't actually have the idea. It was a couple of guys, Samuel Mockbee and D.K. Ruth, who in 1993, they decided they wanted to get out of the ivory tower, and they also saw their students, and our university's already had a very good construction has always been very important to them, so they would already have the students making mock-ups. And they basically said, let's go out into a rural community and see if we can use the money that we all put into these mock-ups and actually put them together as one thing and help somebody with some housing. And that's where they started.
But it was not that you studied that. You actually had to question whatever you had studied in architecture school.
Yeah, well, they're I think certainly, I mean, you know, Samuel Mockbee's, he was a fifth-generation Mississippian. He had come up through the civil rights movement. I always remember him telling a story of when he was about to go off to Vietnam. They went on a march, and they were tired, and they all fell asleep on the side of the road. And he woke up, and he realized that he was surrounded. All the folks around him were black, and from that point, he was like, "Well, I have to get over these preconceptions that are taught to me about these people being dangerous. You know, they're my colleagues and contributors to society." So I think my statement at the beginning about good architecture being for everybody, I think he really felt that, and that we were, you know, he was once giving a lecture with a guy called Michael Hopkins, and he spoke about the first house, Shepherd and Alberta's, and he joked at Michael Hopkins because he's like, "I'm doing the house for the poorest person in the world, and you're doing the house for the richest person in the world, who's the Queen." And I mean, it's you know, my personal upbringing had always been, I guess I'm a socialist. I was brought up in a post-Second World period where after the Second World War, people came back and said, why are we on this planet? What an idea of having good housing for everybody, good welfare state for everybody.
But modern pioneers also supposedly had this idea.
Right.
It just did not work.
Right. And well, I don't know that it didn't work. I mean, I think clearly
the cities changed.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I mean, not the rural places, but I think again, it's because there's a kind. I see it as a kind of tragic. There's no symbiosis there whatsoever between the rural and the urban. I really do think it's like colonialism. Let's go somewhere, let's take it, and we don't really care what happened after it. And so it's interesting for me to stand here, and I mean, my predecessor was a genius. He called it Rural Studio. It was like, okay, well, we're going to be very clear about this. We're going to stay in one place for 31 years. That he never wanted. He wouldn't have continued doing it. I think he'd probably think I was an idiot being here now, you know, being 25 years on. But I think there's such a I mean, we don't know each other. The rural folks don't know the urban folks and vice versa. In the United States, that's created a real problem. But the United States is also an incredibly vast country, so you can't make everybody else happy. But the fact that we're in societies where we no longer talk about society, I mean, in the 70s, I got an education to better society.
Yeah, but that's, in my opinion, that's perhaps going very far, because, I mean, you're putting so much weight in these students. Not only do they have to design, they also have to raise money.
Yeah.
How do they learn how to do that? Do they ask? Do they?
Well,
they also have to build. I mean, they're doing everything in one person.
Yeah.
I mean, the life of an architect was already hard enough.
Well, I was educated that way. The tortured artist. I went to the Architectural Association, and man, it was miserable. I didn't have anyone to talk to, and we work as teams, and that's the fun of it. Everyday life is going and working together. But
so it's in a way what you are proposing here in your university and the way you work, because we saw you there carrying stuff, right? I mean, it's like a person who can do almost everything. It's against what society has brought us, the specialization on a particular field, doing one field.
I don't think we say that. We pride out when they pick teams, the students, they're all very clear about thinking about what they can provide. So we get them to be very self-reflective. We're not asking them to be able to know everything.
Okay.
And we get amazing consultants into our studio from actually across Europe as well. We have consultants who zoom in and help our students make decisions. So they, as a student, suddenly know it's not all on them. There's actually people out there that can help them answer these questions. So it's not, I'm not expecting you to know it all. Whew, take a deep breath. It's okay. There are smart folks out there that can help you decide that. And I think I would have loved that. It's kind of liberating to them. And they run meetings with our consultants. They do the whole thing. They do meeting minutes. And I think they find it liberating. And when they go into offices, they're immediately going up the chain because they've already run a project. But we do it by I'm a handholder. I don't tell them to do the design this way. All we do is we keep coming back and asking the same boring questions. But really, as teachers, that's all we're doing. We're getting them to ask the appropriate questions. I don't think we give them an answer. We're like, well, let's go through this enough that we're like, close as we can get, you know? And it's not, nobody's a genius. I mean, Mockbee Baby was a genius, but the rest of us just have to work hard.
Yeah. What about wages? Are they paid, the students?
Wages?
Are they paid?
No.
For their work?
The dirty secret of the program is that in the 5th year, these community projects, they're there for 9 months, they graduate, and then they agree that they're going to stay behind. And then they pretty much start building. They start spending the money that we've raised or that the community has brought. So we build trust. And I volunteer as a teacher to be their mentor during that period. I don't get paid to manage. We have, you know, in the past we've had up to 10 projects going, of which I'm probably only paid to manage 3 or 4 of them. So you've got to have eyes in the back of your head, but you've also got to say, we're all in this together.
So as a journalist, I should play devil's advocate, right? So in a way, they are questioning the traditional architecture education, but they are also learning, this is a question, are they also learning that they will have to work?
For free.
Exactly.
I think that we talk, I don't want this to be a practice for them, a way that they practice architecture. I think that every designer has value. Architects particularly are undervalued in what they bring to the table. So we talk about this a lot, but they're also having the privilege of understanding how to put something together from the first line drawn to the very end.
Yeah.
And I think they learn that through blood, sweat, and tears. And all we're doing is supporting them to do it. And I don't think there's anybody that comes out of our program that feels, yes, I should be doing this for free. But they all walk out with a kind of an advocacy attitude, but also knowing that there might be moments in their career where they might just have to do that, if there's a special moment to do that. Not all of the time. We have to be valued. And it's really bizarre. Whoever talks about rural placing having art or architecture, it's always a city or it's an urban thing. And we're trying to say that these issues are just as important in rural places and they deserve the opportunities. And what we've done is I think we try to kind of bridge the gap of misconception and preconception, particularly black to white as well, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And we all have a collective goal. So it's not, hey, let's just get in a room together and drink beer. It's get in a room together, drink beer, and we're all trying to do this house or all trying to do this park. I mean, that park project that lasted 10 years, can you believe a municipality allowed a school of architecture to say, this is going to take a lot of years to do this? They let us tear down the original park, and they met with us every month for 10 years to think about their park.
Who decides this, for example? Is there a major?
That was a community organization that had the mayor in it. It also had the probate judge.
What about the McDonald's? Are they happy without the McDonald's? All of them?
Well, the McDonald's is gone. It's amazing.
You never go to McDonald's?
Me? No. Well, I don't know if they do.
Yeah, and the students?
I don't. I mean,
because
I think
they overwork.
Yeah,
They are not paid. They cannot buy things at McDonald's.
We are fed.
I mean,
the food at the Royal Studio right this moment, we have a chef who's part Egyptian, part Alabama, and the food is off the charts. I mean, I'm worried about getting them gaining weight, not losing it.
It's a microcosm, basically. So, I mean, are you sending, again, playing evil's advocates, are you sending the message that in order to be able to build a different type of architecture, you need to change the whole society? Because even, the bars, isn't it perhaps overdoing the role of the architect? Could it be?
Well, I think it's a good question. I do think that the architect has given a lot away. We're not expecting our students in the future to go away and build things.
No, it's actually giving a lot away, perhaps too much. This is my question.
Right, I think it has given too much away. Today, we do the napkin sketch and we give it to a contractor. And our students do huge, great, thick documents of construction details. They draw everything, and they're not doing it so they give to a contractor. They're giving it so they have something to look at when they're building the building. And I think they walk away as much better architects when they're able to understand what it takes to put a building together.
I am sure about the students, because as you said before, and as you showed, they know all the process, the different stages. But I wonder about the architecture as well. For example, do you have like a catalog with the different houses and units and?
Well,
more or less that you show.
If you go to the what's called the Front Porch Initiative, we have access to that and access to be able to contact our organization to do that.
Now the question I need to ask you is, as you know, in the 60s, Sears sold houses. And in the States, there is a tradition of pre-built houses. So that's not new either. So what makes you think, or Rural Studio, or your community, that this time this is going to work?
Well, we're not going to save the world. But what I think we have raised, there's been enough political contact and interest in our project that it has really brought rural housing to a level of dialogue.
Why do you think this is? Because, I mean, what are you adding to this? Perhaps insulation, perhaps everything that you showed in here?
I think it's the conversation about the house is virtually 1% of the conversation. Getting access to housing, getting access to loans, getting access. There's traditionally, and traditionally is the wrong word, but in society, particularly in our part of the world, people have deliberately not been given to access to organizations, to both organizations, but also to legal opportunities. I mean, for example, the young man that we built the 2.5-story building for, his family lives on a piece of property that they worked on as slaves. That piece of property is owned by all of the family. But, and the reason that has actually worked is that the parent, the grandparents, whoever it was that was there first, they were not given access to legal help to write a will. So when parents die, what happens automatically is that the property is subdivided between 10 kids. When they all die, suddenly it might be 100 people that own that piece of property. Now, the beauty of it is if they all live together, if they can agree and keep together, they have this amazing community that we never have in a city. But in this situation, example, well, hold one second. But in this situation, in other situations, there's legally, any one member of those 100 people could sell out that property from underneath those folks. They could sell it without agreeing with any one of the other 99 people. So that's been a deliberate strategy and attitude amongst the people running the state and the government. And something like 70% of black folks who were given property at the end of slavery have lost it. Just in the state of Alabama alone. It's ridiculous. Sorry,
No.
rudely.
The thing is, I keep wondering how much, because you seem to know not every owner, every student. So that means small, keeping things small and keeping things very local.
Yeah.
And now that you are exporting to Florida, you mentioned, and how do you keep that attitude?
Well, Fannie Mae is a kind of quasi-government, and Fannie Mae is in jeopardy because of the new regime. But Fannie Mae pays our organization. Our organization is not free. It's been supported by Fannie Mae to go and support community organizations to make choices about these different homes. So our people go there, they visit with the client, with the community, they suggest the project they do, and then they manipulate the project relative to the site and help them make decisions about which building would be better. So they're getting a service that's only free because we're sponsored. But it's not free because we're being paid by this non-governmental organization. But we're giving advice to our best because they would have no other access to this kind of support network. The problem, the real issue is that in our capitalist world, it's fallen to a university, an educational organization to come up with different models of housing. No architect, no builder, no contractor could afford to put the billions of hours that we've put in for the last 20 years in designing these things. And we're trying to raise the quality of housing in a rural area. That's it.
But it's like an ONG.
Sorry.
No?
An NGO.
NGO, sorry.
A non-governmental organization. In some respects, yes. I mean, maybe it is the government doing the work, but nobody else is doing it. I mean, the government is not doing it. I would say when we started doing this, it almost felt like it was a moral responsibility for doing it because nobody else is doing it.
So
I look at other schools and I'm like, why aren't you doing it?
But on the other hand, you are part of this new world of architecture, like the Anne Lacaton and Jean-Philippe Basal that work differently, or Alejandro Aravena, who also won the Pritzker Prize with the incremental, viviendas incrementales, no? Which is, you showed different ideas of growing as you get some more money and as you are able, or working from the home, which is actually perpetuating something that existed before. Perhaps we should have never let it go, perhaps, no, in a way.
Yeah.
So is there a nostalgic attitude towards this as well? Could it be? Because also the way
on our behalf, nostalgia.
I mean, in everyone's,
I'm not certain I understand the question. Nostalgia for...
I saw a lot of nostalgia because I saw, for example, the idea of the community together. Now that, this is the community, right?
Yeah.
The idea of the houses with the, I don't know how to say this in English, with the double
gables.
The gables, right?
Yeah. Well, all of that's actually
has
just
to do with the weather, probably.
Pragmatism,
exactly.
quite honestly.
Right.
And material use. You know, it's not. We even have houses that instead of doing that, they have that now, so there's no eave.
Yeah.
And that's simply us reacting to
or the fire station as well.
No, that's actually us reacting to the problem. If you make that, is that you have that space under your eave.
Yeah.
So so everyone says, is this a stylistic thing? It's not a stylistic thing at all. It's about durability. So I'm sorry, that wasn't why you were taking the question.
No, my question would be, do you feel this recipe, these ideas could be applied anywhere? Or only in rural areas, only in places, or perhaps it would work even better if the weather wasn't so cold, for example.
You're talking about the house projects or the idea of the rural studio?
Both.
Both. Well,
Because
but
of
the
the
irony
connection
is
to
that
the,
a lot of the housing that these organizations are coming to is actually, they're in urban conditions. We're doing some replacement housing in New Orleans, we're doing some replacement housing in Nashville. And it's always it's interesting because we do, for the United States, we do fairly small housing. To the Europeans, it probably looks like, well, hell, this is luxurious.
yeah.
But we do very small housing, and it's allowed us to, for example, with not-for-profit organizations, to argue for rezoning areas so that we can do multiple smaller units on that suddenly change the value of the land, because not-for-profits, and they always get the shittiest, and
Yeah.
you know, that's where they put social housing. They put it in the place that no one else values.
Yeah.
But the good thing has been that with our smaller units, they've been able to take those over, and so suddenly that land has value. So it's lifting that value. That's just an example of that. But,
And are the people who moved from trailers to homes happier?
I think they're much. I mean, I don't know. You know, I'm biased. I mean, the first lady that I showed you, Lucy, in the carpet house, she was not just in a trailer home, she was on dirt floor. So all of that furniture in that house, it was sort of tragic but beautiful that she wanted her house to look like the house that she saw on TV. So then she goes and she buys all of this furniture on loan to make that home feel like it's on TV, you know.
Another question.
So I don't know whether, I think that, I mean, the thing about the houses is it's real property. The trailer homes are not real property, they're called chattel property, so they're not an investment. What we're doing is attaching to the ground, building a foundation, and they've got something for their families.
Yeah, and you explained that very well,
right.
because it felt like a car more than a home.
Yeah.
What about the two doors? Why do you need two doors in a small house?
Oh, that was so that in the back bedroom, and this was.
But there was only one with back.
There was in Ophelia's home. There was one in the main room. There was a front door and a back door in the main room. So if Ophelia is going to be asleep in that main room, the idea was that the son who was sleeping in the bedroom could go out the door without disturbing his mom. So suddenly, and Ophelia thinks that house is a two-bedroom house now, even though
because of the two doors.
Because of the private entrance, if you like. So it's just moving a door, and you're like, wow.
We say in Spanish, casa con dos puertas, difícil de guardar. House with two doors, difficult to keep. We prefer one door.
Oh yeah.
I think that's very traditional.
Yeah, it's very traditional. Yeah.
Have this back door almost.
Well,
Yeah.
and you got to be careful with that in
Yeah.
the US, because you know who went to the back door and you know who went to the front
Yeah.
door. But I don't think for them it was just, this is great, but he wakes me up every day when he's leaving. And,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
So, but it's being used now in other situations. So.
Before we let them ask whatever questions they have for you, just one last question.
Yeah.
What about the students? How do they feel about not signing projects?
Signing.
So, like Rural Studio doesn't sign projects?
No.
Or they,
Well, I mean, you know, nobody signs anything. I mean, our
Yeah, you
university has taken on this obligation. I am covered for liability. The students are covered for liability. And the university has actually said this is, I mean, you just think about this. We allow work in veterinary schools on animals, and we allow work on human beings in medical centers and hospitals, but we can't do it on buildings. So they've just said, okay, well, this is similar to that. In fact, it should seem like it's much easier than dealing with human bodies and animals. That, you know, so they have. The truth is that they probably didn't have any choice. I mean, when Samuel Mockbee died in 2001, there was so much outcry that I think he had grown this organization and nobody wanted to lose it. But I don't know how happy the university was about that. Can you cut that from me? Yeah. Take that off the video.
So who wants to ask Andrew?
Nacho and Andrew, thank you very much. Football Club Barcelona is winning 3-1 against Benfica.
3-1?
3-1.
That's
Ah,
important, but that also means that in around 15-20 minutes,
Oh, that's
there's a lot of people, some happy, some not, coming down. So maybe what we could do to wrap it up is to ask for one short question and
Just
one
one
short
question?
answer. Anybody
Short answer.
ready for that?
Short answer, that's for you.
all right. No.
No questions?
One question in here.
Yes.
Hi.
And short question as well.
Yeah, I was just curious if you could take the model that you have for the rural houses and then apply them to places like Asheville, where they've experienced disasters. Like, could you kind of, I don't know if Rural Studios thought about that at all.
Well, they've actually been contacted by organizations up there. So they're in the beginnings of those conversations
Yeah.
right now.
So yeah, the answer was yes.
Yes. Sorry, yes.
So before we go, very, very briefly, Andrew Freear, he talked about the people moving from trailers that are sold like cars and feel like cars. He said that in the rural area, you do not buy a home to make money. You do it to last 100 years, you mentioned, and to adapt it for future changes. You spoke about rural balance, a contact with the community, a closeness to knowing, the people that you're going to work for. He defended that good design should be available to everyone, everywhere. He said that cared social housing and public spaces are human rights. You describe yourself as an outsider, both an outsider and insider, so with two different points of view. He described himself as an architect who designs, who builds, who raises money, and so do his students, a community person as well. He defended a community working together in equity and with voice from the beginning in all projects. And you also defended an architecture that should do rather, that
Should do rather than can do.
Exactly, that can do. And finally, you described Rural Studio as a critic to how we build, basically.
And teach architecture students.
Exactly. And you said we have learned a lot of lessons from previous projects, and also we take our work very seriously, but not ourselves, which is a traditional problem in traditional architecture. So thank you very much, Andrew, and all of you for being here tonight. And run.